Welcome to this shortwave radio channel, and of course, we continue our look at the shortwave spectrum, megahertz by megahertz. And we talk in this video of 25 to 26 megahertz. There's a few things in there, but I suspect that the activity is probably very low. And there's one chunk that I didn't talk about in the other video, but in the 26 megahertz video, 26 to 26,100 is the upper range of the 11 meter international broadcast bands. So what's between 25 and 26? Well, at 25 precisely, you have WWV that is experimenting on that frequency. As of September 2019, I've seen it reported. Still, it could be removed at any time because it is a experiment, but it is still something that is apparently available as a time signal station, 25 megahertz. So that's the first thing that you'll see at the bottom of 25. 25 to 25,700 has the utility listings show that the bottom part up from 25, 25, 100, 150 marine simplex frequencies apparently. With low solar activity, I don't expect to hear much with those frequencies at all. Then you have in there's some apparently civil air patrol. So that there are some nets. There's some Cothan stuff also in there from the U.S. and there's some frequencies that are listed for the U.S. Air Force, scattered all through the 25 to 26 megahertz. Once again, with the low solar activity, they're probably unused. Maybe they are decommissioned. But it gives you an idea that there's a mix of signals possible in that range. Honestly, personally, I've heard 25 megahertz WWV. I've never heard anything that has to do with civil air patrol, Air Force, or any other types of utilities in here. The 25,700 to 26,100 is the 11 meter international broadcast band. This was once used. A couple of stations I've heard there. I've heard Radio RSA in the 80s. I actually have a QSL card from Radio RSA 25790. I heard Deutsche Welle that used that frequency at one point. I've heard Radio France that used that frequency at one point. Pretty much the only stations I've heard on the 11 meter band of international broadcasts. Searching for international broadcasts, there's none to be seen in the schedules lately. It all has to do with solar activity, of course, in part, but also it was already a band that was not used a lot back then. So don't expect to have really a lot of stuff or hear any international broadcasters use this. Last but not least, if you're in Europe and if propagation actually eats up, there's some DRM experiments depending on the countries. There's been some frequencies in that range that have been actually posted as digital radio mondial digital mode, and it's mostly for local communications that are in certain areas. I believe I've seen some from France. I don't know how extensive this is, if it's still being done, but some European countries are apparently using this range for DRM local broadcasts, as if, like a local radio range for broadcasting within a city or an area. And of course, you might hear some out-of-band CBers that sometimes, there's not a lot of them, but there are some that sometimes cross the 26 megahertz barrier and come down into the 25 megahertz area, mostly on the upper range of 25 megahertz. But that's pretty much what you can expect to maybe hear on this band. But I would say the sure thing is 25 megahertz WWV. Last but not least, also, yeah, I had a lot of lasts in this one. 25,900 to 26,000, well, 25,800 to 26,000. Within that international broadcast band, you do have FM to studio transmitter links from the US that exists. The last I heard was 25,910, which was from Texas. I think it was El Paso, Texas. That had, I could hear some talk, and I believe it was a TV link. I also heard an FM station, and I think it was from Texas also on, I think it was 25,990. And those have been reported not that long ago. But once again, because propagation isn't there most of the time, you probably won't hear it. But when sporadic E happens, or when the solar activity picks up, you might be hearing some of those things. The studio to transmitter links are in FM mode. So that was 25 to 26 megahertz, things you might expect to hear in that range. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching our videos.